Hey guys, this is Ty Simpson. You're listening to the Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Roll Tide.
The mix of salty sea air and burnt rubber. The big skies, high banks, and grandstands. The rumble in your chest. That's what we love about the Daytona 500. Honoring history and making it. At the biggest race of the year on the biggest stage of a lifetime. That's what we love about the Daytona 500. You gotta see it to believe it. Secure your experience now at Daytona500.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this episode of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, episode 300. 300 shows. Can you believe that? Our first one was all the way back in the winter of 2021, previewing Alabama's appearance in the national championship game against Ohio State, game that Alabama would go on to win. And now 300 episodes later, here we are in 2025, hopefully previewing an SEC championship game win for the Crimson Tide against the Georgia Bulldogs. But this is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our studios as we begin our show looking ahead to what's coming up on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Alabama against Georgia in the SEC championship game. We'll take a look at what's coming up on the show, plus our headlines, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see, first of all, what's coming up on the show this afternoon. Well, we will start with some basketball, taking a look back to last night at Coleman Coliseum with our booth cam highlights of the Clemson win in basketball presented by NASCAR. So we'll take a look back, first of all, at that win for Crimson Tide basketball, and then we will focus on football for the rest of the show. We'll have a conversation with DaShawn Jones, an outstanding defensive back for the Crimson Tide football team. Then we'll be joined by Holly Rowe of ESPN on ABC, as she will be one of the sideline reporters for the SEC championship game between Alabama and Georgia. We'll get thoughts on this matchup from Holly. And then we'll also visit with the opposing broadcaster, Josh Brock, the color analyst for the Georgia Bulldogs radio network. He'll join us to preview Georgia. And then the final word of the night will be courtesy of Kalen DeBoer from last night's edition of the SEC Championship Game preview show presented by Alpha Insurance. Football in Atlanta coming up this Saturday for the SEC Championship game, the 16th appearance for Alabama. And ever since that loss to the Florida Gators in 2008, we have seen nothing but wins for Alabama, 9 straight victories in this SEC Championship game. And that includes going 4-0 against the Georgia Bulldogs during that time, including 3 wins against Kirby Smart, as he has been the head coach of the University of Georgia. Hopefully a win for the Crimson Tide on Saturday. That means Alabama is definitely moving on to the college football playoff. And even with the loss, there's still a good chance that Alabama would still be in the 12-team field for the college football playoff, but we won't know until Sunday morning with the bracket release coming up on ESPN. So it's a huge weekend coming up for Crimson Tide football. First things first, let's get this win against Georgia, get championship number 31 in school history in terms of SEC championships, and then move on towards hopefully national championship number 19. Taking a look at the basketball programs, men's basketball last night, a strong showing in the ACC SEC Challenge, 90-84 over Clemson. A new career high for Amari Allen, 20 points and 11 rebounds. He's already been back-to-back SEC Freshman of the Week. Could see him get that honor for a 3rd straight week. And then LeBaron Philon tied a career high with 29 points in that win for Alabama. Great defense down the stretch for Alabama, making sure the Crimson Tide got the victory. Now coming up for the men's team, Sunday they'll be home against UTSA and former Alabama assistant coach Austin Clonch at 1 o'clock. Our coverage will start at noon. Women's basketball will also play on Sunday against ULM at 4. And tonight, they will take on the Clemson Tigers, just like men's basketball did in the ACC SEC Challenge. Tonight, Alabama women's basketball against Clemson, 6 p.m. the tip-off. Radio coverage at 5:45. And don't forget, you can also watch our basketball booth cam presented by NASCAR, streaming live here on all of our CTSN social media platforms. Well, starting with men's basketball last night, the win against Clemson. I was filling in on play-by-play for Chris Stewart and Tom Stipe, who were busy with Kalen DeBoer at the SEC Championship Game preview show at Baumhauer's. But Brian Passig and I had a fun time in the basketball booth with Alabama's win against Clemson. Here's a look back at all the booth cam highlights from last night's win against the Tigers.
Ball was tipped and away we go. Clemson controls the opening tap, as leaves the shot no good, but the ball ricochets, finds Bull Bowen, and it's still Alabama possession. Now in the right corner, how about Philon? Yes! A bank first three-pointer, LeBaron Philon Jr.
Alabama's gotten great looks. That one off a loose ball situation. LeBaron Philon looking good early.
Trying to build on a 10-5 lead. Bull Bowen, right wing three. Swish! Taylor Bowen, the bank first three-pointer. To Allen, top of the key. He loads up a three. He knocks it down. Alabama perfect 4 for 4 for bank first three-pointers.
And Alabama moving the ball, sharing it, knocking down shots.
Kicks it down the left corner. Here comes a three. That's good. London Jemison.
London Jemison goes to Las Vegas and turns into Steph Curry. He hasn't missed in about a week and a half.
Bethea swings at Bowen, top of the key. Three. Bottom. Phylon to Bowen, running baseline, bounce pass in the left corner. Millette catch and release. Three is good. And one. Houston Millette. Chance at a 4-point play. Phylon top of the key with a three. LeBaron Phylon Jr. makes it Alabama 61. Clemson 58 on the bank first three. Phylon spinning. SEC logo. Floater is up and in. And one. LeBaron Phylon Jr.
What a play by LeBaron Phylon. Able to get in the lane, spin back to the left, take the contact, knock down about a 14-footer as he's fading away, and a chance for a big three-point play.
Phylon kicks it out. Jemison, left side three is perfect. London Jemison with a bank first three-pointer. Fight loose and he keeps the basketball. Spins around again, top of the key. Here's Millette with a three. That's perfect! Houston Millette makes it Alabama 70, Clemson 66. Bank first three again.
And the extra possession by Mari Allen got it on the offensive glass after Alabama gets its first stop in a while, and this crowd really getting into it.
Leaving it short was Davidson, and the rebound finally controlled by Sherrill and the Crimson Tide. Alabama ball up by 2. Here's Allen swimming to the basket. Right side layup, good on Mari Allen. The SEC Freshman of the Week showing why, making it Alabama 76, Clemson 72.
He's trying to be SEC Freshman of the Week for the third straight week. What a move by Mari Allen.
Phylon driving, right side layup, no good, but Millette steals the rebound away from Clemson. Bowen, left side three. Got it! Taylor Bowen, bank first three-pointer, set up perfectly by the offensive rebound. 81-75 Alabama.
What a huge offensive rebound by Houston Millette. The hustle play.
Phylon on the right wing, backs up a few steps, now gets moving. Free throw line, in the paint, long floater up and in, and one. LeBaron Phylon Jr. ties the game at 83. A chance to get Alabama to 84 coming up here. Spinning in the paint, Phylon puts it up, puts it home. LeBaron Phylon Jr. taking over with 29 points. It's Alabama 86, Clemson 83.
And that was well defended by Clemson. Just a better offensive move and a huge shot by LeBaron Phylon once again.
No good off the back iron. Rebound, Aiden Sherrill. Tough board for Sherrill down the right side of the lane. Now the basketball back with Alabama up 3. Allen at the top of the key. Downhill on the left side, spinning against Johnson. Puts it up, puts it in. Off the square. Foster over the timeline right. 12 seconds to go. Foster driving in right side. Layup blocked away. 8th block of the game. Aiden Sherrill. That'll be the dagger. It comes, takes to a block, and it's Alabama winning the ACC SEC Challenge 90-84 over the Clemson Tigers.
What a win for Alabama. It wasn't easy, played so well in the first half. Clemson battled back, took the lead, but Bama able to show a lot of toughness. An 8-0 run late in this game to take the lead, extend the lead, and ultimately beat a good Clemson team.
Hi, I'm Keon Saab. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Well, that's our basketball for the show. Now let's focus on football. Alabama against Georgia coming up on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And somebody that certainly knows what's going on with the Crimson Tide secondary is defensive back DaShawn Jones, an outstanding player that transferred last year to Alabama from Wake Forest. And he has continued making huge plays, even battling through injuries this season. DaShawn Jones. Now, it is worth noting we recorded this interview very early in the season, or even in the offseason, just getting ready for this season. But DaShawn talks to us about everything he's seen from this Crimson Tide secondary, how practicing against Alabama's wide receivers have made him better, and just what he's enjoyed about being an Alabama football player. Here's our one-on-one conversation with DaShawn Jones.
Roll Tide and welcome to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Roger Hoover back with you with the LLH Advantage Center. Now please be joined by Crimson Tide defensive back DaShawn Jones as we get set for this 2025 season. And DaShawn, Roll Tide, how's the summer been?
Roll Tide, it's been amazing, guys putting in work. Just ready for the season, I feel like we got a big season ahead of us, so we just ready to get to it.
How much fun is it having year 2 for you at Alabama? Last year around this time, everything was brand new, getting ready for a different season, getting to play in the SEC, but now you know what it's like a little more.
Yeah, so I got comfortable, of course. I feel like coming in last year, I really didn't know what to expect, but as the season went on, I feel like I got comfortable with position changes, but as year 2 goes on, I feel great about it. I feel comfortable. Like I said, I feel great about the season, upcoming season. So ready to get to it.
Saw you on the field every game last year. What do you feel like were some of your big moments as a playmaker last year?
I feel like some of the plays that I made, I feel like they were the great plays that the team needed. I felt like I came in to do a job, and whatever I needed to do for the team to win, that's what I did. So I feel like I played a part in that.
How'd you see the secondary get better as last year went along?
Yeah, I feel like we got way better. The secondary was the strongest, in my opinion. I feel like we made plays out there that was needed and to win games, you know. And as far as like this season and the upcoming season, I feel like that's another standpoint that we stand strongly by, being the strongest unit on the field.
Yeah, and you guys bring so many players back in this day and age of the transfer portal. I mean, all you guys seem pretty locked into the message your coaching staff has given you. How special is it to have a group that's so much intact from one year to the next?
Yeah, I mean, it's very special. One thing we harped on this season is being unbreakable. I feel like everyone says they're unbreakable until they're tested. So we're ready for that. You know, we're ready to be tested, and we want to see how unbreakable we are. So we're just ready. I'm just ready.
That's certainly good. How'd you use your time in the weight room to get better?
Yeah, so it was different aspects that I needed to get strong in. I feel like Coach Ballou helped me with that. We sat down, you know, and looked at the certain things that I needed to get better in, and as well as the other guys, you know. And having someone like that, a strength staff like that, is amazing. Coach Ballou, I shout out to those guys, man. They push us every day. They know what to look for, and we just put in the work.
How special is it to have a plan like that is really just designed for you, and then at the same time it goes hand in hand with nutrition as well to make sure you're getting fueled the right way?
I mean, it's very special, and I feel like it's very important to have those hand in hand. I feel like without them is really nothing we can do. So having both of those type of go hand in hand is very amazing and very special.
You're now getting ready for your redshirt season here at Alabama. I mean, can you believe the journey you've had throughout college football? We've talked, I believe, before about your decision to go to Wake Forest and then the decision to transfer to Alabama, but now you're one of the veterans on this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing journey. I thank God for it. You know, being at Wake, it shows me a lot. I had a lot of experience, so being at Wake and then transferring here, it was an amazing decision for me. I'm just ready for the season, man. Like, it's my last one, so I got to make it count.
Where have you been mostly on the field in preseason workouts, getting ready? What position?
Husky. I've been a lot of Husky.
So a lot of fans maybe didn't grow up knowing what the Husky position is. How would you explain it?
Just like a inside, like a slot corner. That's pretty much what the position is inside of a corner. It's a slot corner, so
that's good. So you get to go up against some slot wide receivers who have been some of the good guys you've been battling with in practice.
Yeah. So all the guys we have are very talented, very special, and it's an amazing receiver core we have. But lining up against Ryan Williams is definitely one for the books.
Yeah. Is it his speed or just the way he's able to crisply run his routes? What makes him good?
Yeah. Speed. I would say the speed and the way he runs his routes for sure. He's a shifty guy, so I feel like that going against that and iron sharpens iron, you know. So going against that in practice helps me prepare for the game.
Is that one of the things you were looking for the most when you made that decision to come to Alabama, was having an elevated practice experience going up against some elite wide receivers like this?
Definitely, for sure. Competition everywhere, you know. So that's the one thing I was looking for.
And good quarterback play as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, what are you seeing from those three guys as they make their way throughout this competition?
All those guys are great guys. I feel like all those guys, they know their things. They know what's going on, and any one of them can play. You know, I don't feel like it's not just one person, but all three of those guys can play. So I feel like shout out to the quarterback room for sure.
Yeah, they're certainly getting ready for the season. You are as well, you and the fellow defensive backs. Who are some of the leaders? I imagine you are as one of the older players on the roster, but who else has really stepped up as a vocal leader in your room?
In my room, I would say in the Husky room, another leader that stepped up would be Dre Kirkpatrick and Cam Calhoun, for sure.
And those are two young guys as well, you know, and along with the physical gifts, now able to be vocal leaders as well. How special is that?
I mean, it's amazing. You know, you want that type of thing going on in your room and on your team as well. Everybody is leaders. You know, everyone has that leadership role. So having a lot of leaders is a great build up for success.
Is this a fun defense to play in, especially with a position like Husky that you don't always see in some other spots?
Yeah, I definitely say it's a fun defense to play in. You know, just being everywhere, making plays, flying around. You know, the guys that we have are doing a good job at flying around and being focused on what's next, like what I would say what's going forward. You know, yeah.
You got to play with Deontay Lawson last year. You got to see how he was really the leader of the defense, making all the calls as the middle linebacker. How special is it to get him back this season for the Crimson Tide, especially considering the injuries he's had to overcome?
Yeah. I think it's very special for D-Law getting D-Law back. You know, he's the leader of this team. You know, and for the defense as well. So being able to bring him back for another year, man, special.
That's really good. What have you enjoyed about this experience? So I think we talked before, before you played a game at Alabama, but now that you've got to see it, the bright lights of Saban Field, Bryant-Denny Stadium, how special is it playing here?
Man, it's everything you could dream of. Playing here at Bryant-Denny is amazing, you know, especially the night games. Night games are always the ones that's like crazy, you know. So I would say the biggest experience was probably the night games here at Bryant-Denny.
What else have you enjoyed about just being a student here at Alabama and the experience around this place?
The hospitality that everyone shares, you know, is like everywhere you go, you getting greeted, you know. I feel like that's really the biggest thing here. Everyone takes you in, and everyone has great hospitality down here. So that's one of the things that I like down here.
What's been your focus in the classroom?
Just being able to stay on top of all my grades, you know, making A's, making B's, you know, just not slipping away from those things as well as on the football field as well. So,
what are you interested in? What's your major? What could maybe life after football look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm a communications major. Life after football, I would probably say like more of into the real estate business. I have my LLC, so and my dad is also in real estate as well as my cousin. So real estate is like one of the biggest things that I'll probably do after football.
All right, fans, keep that in mind long after your time in pro football is done. DaShawn, it's been really fun to catch up with you here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Just thank you for the time you've given us, and have a great 2025 season. Thanks again. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Thank you.
This isn't just a race, it's the race. 500 miles of glory, a million memories, one place. That's what we love about the Daytona 500. You gotta see it to believe it. Secure your experience now at Daytona500.com.
Hopefully, we'll be calling the name of DaShawn Jones all coming up throughout the SEC Championship game on Saturday. Someone that's going to be roaming the sidelines for ABC is Holly Rowe. We visited with her before here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, and she was on the sidelines for Alabama, Georgia back in September. Now she's on the sidelines once again after just seeing the Crimson Tide in the Iron Bowl this past week. So a perfect time to catch up with our friend Holly Rowe as she gives us some details maybe we don't know about Alabama football, and especially about Ty Simpson. That's coming up in this conversation with Holly Rowe. Holly, it's great to see you after you just saw the Crimson Tide in Auburn. Here we are again. It's Alabama and Georgia in Atlanta. How's everything going?
It's going great, and I'm excited. This should be a really good matchup. You know, I did this game earlier in the season. Alabama went into Georgia and won that game. I think that was a pivotal moment in the Crimson Tide season, and here we are. They've had their backs against the wall all year. One stumble against Oklahoma late in the season, but they've righted the ship. So now everything's on the line. Playoff bid, SEC championship. So I'm really excited to see this matchup again and see how it goes.
Yeah, in the games you've covered for Alabama this season, what have been some of your favorite stories you've gotten to tell viewers about this Crimson Tide football team?
Well, one is their resilience. You know, they've been telling me that because they lost that early game to Florida State, the way they lost that game, they have literally felt like every single week is a playoff game. And just think of the pressure and the intensity and the anxiety that can put on these young men. And, you know, talking to guys like Ryan Williams and Ty Simpson, they've accepted it and they've embraced it. The other thing this is my all-time favorite story. I don't know if you saw this. I posted this over the weekend, but in the Iron Bowl last week, I told this incredible story about Kane Womack. You know, he grew up around the Ole Miss program because his dad, Dave, was coaching there for so long. And he got to know Derek Nix, who was there coaching as well with Dave Womack, and they became really good family friends. And Kane's sister, Haley, ended up being the surrogate for Derek and his wife Allison's baby girl Ava. And I'm just that is maybe one of my favorite football stories ever, of like bringing a child into the world because of this beautiful family and football connection. And, talking to Derek, he and his wife, Allison, I was in tears talking to Allison about just the sacrifice of love that is for their family and this beautiful little girl. She's 9 years old now. She's a heck of a flag football player. So, Kane Womack and Derek, they were on the field before the game with Dad Dave. And it was just this precious moment. So that's probably my favorite football story I think I've ever run across, because it's just so much love and sacrifice and care. So that's a big one. I would also say that one story I haven't gotten in yet, but I was thinking about this week, was I met with Ty Simpson early in the season. And as you all can imagine, anybody who plays quarterback at the University of Alabama, it is a lot of pressure and stress and scrutiny and eyeballs and anxiety and all the things. And he was telling me that one of the ways he's getting away from everything is doing Legos. And so he went home and he sent me this video. I have not gotten this on TV yet, but I promise I will, of all of the Lego creations he's built. And the reason I'm impressed with this is I recently tried to build a Hogwarts castle, a Harry Potter castle from Legos. It is really hard and it takes a lot of patience, and you have to be able to see the little tiny pieces and where it goes and follow instructions. And I was like, he must have a very interesting mind. This is a young man who can see the puzzle, who can see the picture. The throw he made to win that football game, they go for it on 4th and 2. And I was actually standing right by Kalen DeBoer when they have this crucial decision against Auburn. It is the game on the line. And there was no hesitation. It's not like they huddled up and called timeout, made a decision. Kalen was like, this is it, and go. And they went fast and it worked. But that throw, like, think of the little tiny slice of where that throw had to fit in from Ty Simpson. So I'm going to give the Legos a little bit of credit for winning that game.
Absolutely. That's a great story. Can't wait to see that coming up. We talked before about your relationship with Kalen DeBoer, getting to cover him earlier in his career time at Washington and now here in year 2 at Alabama. I think Alabama fans have really loved his intensity and seeing more of his personality. Are you seeing that come across as well this season?
Yeah, I think the thing that is hard for people to understand is he is literally the nicest guy. He is laid back in a lot of ways. He will stand and visit with you and chat with you. He has been so unbelievably kind and gracious with me. Coaches have to be patient with me down on the field and wait around and all these things. He's been so gracious. But don't mistake that laid back kindness that people have for, he is super competitive. And I see these moments on the sideline. He's been successful at the highest level, took his team to the national championship game, won national championships when he was at Sioux Falls. This guy is super competitive. And I think that the fans are kind of seeing that now. And I think if you remember when I talked to you last year, I said, just be patient, give him time, let him coach. And hello, I was right. I know I'm right. So I hope that fans are finally coming around to that, because I think he's really good.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned you were on the call for Alabama against Georgia earlier in the season in Athens. How have you seen this Georgia program kind of change and go through the season ever since that point?
I am so proud of Georgia, because they're a team that early in the season, they were trying to figure out. I actually was trying to investigate, like, I don't know, is Gunnar Stockton the guy? He was struggling the first couple of games, wasn't throwing the ball downfield. And just the more I got to know him, talk with players around him, this team would lay down and die for Gunnar Stockton, because he puts it on the line every time he steps on the field from them. And I just see this trajectory of every week Georgia has slowly gotten better and better. And I think they're a really good football team, and they're a balanced football team. My concern going into the SEC championship game for both teams is injury. And this is a conversation that we haven't really had nationally. I'm not seeing anyone talk about this, but it is really going to be the healthiest team wins at the end of the season. These bigger games, longer season, extended playoff, the health of players is the most important thing. And last year, Ohio State won the national championship because they were really healthy. We talked to Ryan Day, and he told me this really interesting thing is before last season, he and the offensive coordinator at the time, Chip Kelly, decided to huddle. and to run fewer plays. So if you look at Ohio State, they are not the hurry up team that they used to be and that a lot of teams still are. And why they're doing that is they want to have fewer plays per game on the bodies of these players. Because let's say if you play 10 or 12 fewer plays per game, at the end of the season, that adds up to a whole game or a whole 2 games, right? So I think Ryan Day has really gotten onto something. We're seeing Ohio State be extremely healthy right now. I think Georgia and Alabama, they're really banged up. I was standing on the sideline when Jam Miller went out. It did not look good. He was not putting any weight on that leg. Now they're down to, I think, really one key running back because Kevin Riley's jaw was broken. So, Georgia's center might be out, Drew Bobo, and I think he's really crucial. He and Gunnar Stockton have been buddies since they were 5 and 6 years old. That center quarterback connection and chemistry with Georgia is really important. And so Drew Bobo's out. That does change things for Georgia. So the health of players as we have more games, longer season, I think that's a conversation people need to start having.
It's the SEC championship game. Obviously, CBS had this game for so long after you would do so many great SEC games throughout the year, but now it is part of ESPN and ABC. And just how special is this game? Because there's a lot of conversation around, it doesn't matter as much in the college football playoff era, but from your perspective, how special is it to be in Atlanta to crown a champion in this league?
I think it's still really special. The SEC championship is something that I used to watch from afar because we didn't have the rights to it. And I would be so jealous. I would just having FOMO or FOMO, football FOMO, fear of missing out. I just wanted to be there. It's the biggest game. It's the biggest programs for the most part. And I got to do it last year for the first time in my career this is my 30th season for college football for ESPN. And last year was the first time I got to the SEC championship. So it's a bucket list thing. I think fans are still going to go, still be excited. I do think there are some changes to the conference championships now because of the extended playoffs. Your eyes are looking ahead. You don't suddenly have 3 weeks to get right after a conference championship game before your bowl season starts or your playoff run starts. You've got to be ready next week, maybe. You've got to be ready in 2 weeks, maybe. So I do think it changes a little bit, but the excitement, the drama, the history, it is all still just front and center.
Well, we can't wait to be there. Alabama against Georgia coming up on Saturday, and Holly Rowe will be on the call on ESPN. Holly, just thank you for all the time you've given us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and hopefully we're seeing a lot of you moving forward in December and January, but thank you for your time.
If we keep seeing each other a lot, that means Alabama keeps winning, so that's good for you and your fans, and I don't mind either because I've really gotten to enjoy these young people. This team is special. I really love your coaching staff, and I think this is something that's going to be really special moving forward.
Holly will be on the broadcast on ABC. Of course, we've got you covered on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And then just next door in the other booth, it will be Josh Brock as the color analyst along with Scott Howard, the play-by-play voice for the Georgia Bulldogs on their radio network, brought to you by Learfield, just like us. But it's time to catch up with Josh and get his scouting report on Georgia heading into this matchup. It's kind of a wounded Georgia football team. It's a wounded Alabama football team meeting in Atlanta this week to determine an SEC champion. And we're joined now by Josh to get his thoughts on the Bulldogs with the other booth, presented by Marathon. Josh, it's great to see you once again. Here we are, Alabama against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Even without divisions, we somehow keep meeting here. How's it going?
I know it. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Georgia, Alabama again for a big game and a championship on the line. That seems like that's been the nature of all of our games here of recent history.
Really has been. So again, we're meeting for the second time here in this 2025 season. I'll start with this. What did that loss to Alabama really do for this Georgia football program that's obviously been on a winning streak ever since?
To me, I think one of the main things that it did was, showed you that you could run the ball against anybody, and gave you a tremendous amount of confidence on that. But I think also, too, shortly after that game is when we stopped what felt like an epidemic of letting teams get out to a 21-point lead on us. You learned that, hey, if we stopped doing that, and we need to stop doing that, then that means that we're going to have a little bit of success this year, and our team is going to be a little bit more explosive offensively than we may have first thought.
Yeah, we certainly have seen that for the Bulldogs throughout this year. Do you feel like there was one game that really kind of showed what Georgia can be like at its best?
Yeah, I really do think the Texas game showed what Georgia could be like at its best. Defense played incredibly well in that game. Really did not allow them offensively to gain any traction in that game. And then also, too, just kind of showed you that if you put a full 4 quarters together, which that's probably the closest to playing a full 4 quarter quality football game of the entire season. And man, the way we finished off the fourth quarter in dominant fashion, and of course, very anti Kirby Smart trickeration with the onside kick there. That showed you the versatility of a team that really was coming into its own.
That was a great win for the Bulldogs. Last time out, Georgia picking up the win against Georgia Tech, and ironically enough, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What impressed you about that ball game? Anything give you concern coming off that one against the Yellow Jackets?
Man, I don't think anything impressed me about that ball game on both sides. It was really a really lackluster performance from both teams. And I hate the fact that that game was actually a home game for Georgia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I mean, that stadium, you've played there a lot too. That place was 75% full at best, and they couldn't figure out if they were producing an NFL game or a college game. So the atmosphere was weird. The student section was up in the 300s and the nosebleeds for both schools. It was just a very odd game all the way around. But the fact that I think we played so poorly in one is probably really one of the few things that you could pull from that. We did have a couple of significant injuries, one to our center, Drew Bobo, who's not going to be playing in this game this Saturday. Those are things that raise your eyebrow and cause some concern, particularly given the experience of Alabama's defensive front.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to ask you about, the health of this football team. Alabama is certainly dealing with a lot of injuries coming in this ball game, but is Drew Bobo one of the most notable guys that's going to be out for Georgia?
Yeah, Drew's certainly one of the ones that's most notable. Of course, we have Colby Young, who's still our second leading receiver and hasn't played in several weeks. So that lets you know the production that we lost from him. Him not being there also is going to be a pretty big impact in the game. We will get some guys back that have been out, and it's, of course, much like Alabama, Georgia's injury report is kind of like the Secret Service getting anything out of that. So nobody really knows exactly who's been practicing a whole lot this week and who will actually show up on Saturday from the guys that have been recovering from injury, like Talon Taylor and Kyron Jones. Talon's the receiver that dropped the wide open touchdown, much like Ryan Williams did for you guys in our first matchup. He's a talented freshman receiver. Hopefully he's back and able to play in the game Saturday. And same with Kyron Jones, a safety who had come on really strong for us earlier in the year and played well, and then of course got injured and has been out the last 3 or 4 weeks.
So it's Alabama against Georgia coming up on Saturday. And again, all of these ball games have kind of a life of their own, but it is notable. Kirby Smart 0-2 going up against Kalen DeBoer, and then you back it up even more, 1-7 against Alabama during his time as head coach. A lot of times it feels like with the better team. Has there been any common thread throughout some of these Georgia-Alabama matchups throughout the years, or is it just kind of a tough day for the Bulldogs when these two teams have met?
Yeah, I think, Alabama's certainly been our boogeyman over the last few years and really been the only team that has been that. And Georgia has really been dominant against most every other opponent. Roger, I'd say the biggest thing for us, the thing that what I feel like, and felt like watching the games the last several years and then this year calling that first game, I really feel like in our games against Alabama, we get away from kind of who we are and try to do a couple of things that may try to catch Alabama off guard. But really, if we just stuck to our guns and what has gotten us to these games and these situations that we've been in, I feel like we would have had better success. It's kind of like, in my era, it was the same situation with Florida. We could not beat Florida. We play, you remember that in the early 2000s. I mean, we were late 90s, early 2000s. Georgia's football teams were better than Florida nearly every single time we played them, but we just could not win for whatever reason. There were an error here, a drop pass from somebody that's never really dropped a pass, or certain things that we don't do defensively. Suddenly, in those games, we allow opposing teams to just go berserk, like allowing Alabama to go 8 for 8 on third down conversions the first 2 quarters of that game earlier this season. When's the last time you've seen a Georgia defense do that? I mean, gosh, that's an example of what I mean is when we just kind of slip up or maybe try to not do what's gotten us to those situations and then do something cute and get beat.
Well, it's Alabama against Georgia coming up on Saturday. You'll be on the call with Scott Howard, DJ Shockley on the Georgia Radio Network. Just how much fun have you had sliding into this role, filling some big shoes as a color analyst for Georgia?
Yeah, it's been great. You know, having been a part of the shoulder broadcasts of our post-game shows and even some of our call-in shows during the week the last 10 years, sliding into the booth has been a tremendous amount of fun. You know, and Scott and I have got a great relationship, and Shock and I, of course, teammates, have a great relationship. So a lot of that natural rapport comes across in our broadcasts, and, you know, knowing Scott's rhythm as a color guy. The last thing I want to do is step on the play-by-play guy's call. So learning his rhythm and having listened to a lot of the broadcasts over the years allowed me to do that pretty quickly. And then, of course, I've had a lot of experience doing color commentary for football leading up to that, doing our local high school here in Cartersville for 15 years. You know, you get used to that rhythm of the way the color guy needs to be and put himself in the call after the play-by-play guy's done. And so that's been a tremendous amount of fun. I've had a ball. It's been great with all the games that we've played and how this team's grown throughout the year. I think y'all would probably be in the same boat if you were to say that, you know, Alabama and Georgia are playing in the SEC championship game, and both, I think, regardless of the outcome, are going to be in the college football playoff. I think y'all's crew and our crew would have been like, bet, shake on it. Let's agree that none of us thought that this was going to be the ceiling for either team.
Yeah, hopefully a lot more high-pressure games coming up and big opportunities for both teams down the road. Well, Josh, all the best to you and your crew getting ready for Saturday. Look forward to seeing you in Atlanta. Thank you again for your time.
Appreciate you, Roger. Same to you guys, and we'll see you Saturday.
Hello, my name is Edric Hill, and we with Crimson Drive, driving by NASCAR.
This isn't just a race, it's the race. 500 miles of glory, a million memories, one place. That's what we love about the Daytona 500. You gotta see it to believe it. Secure your experience now at Daytona500.com.
Excited to see Josh coming up on Saturday for Alabama against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Time to take a look at what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network on this very busy weekend. Football, again, the focus with the game on Saturday. Do remind you about the women's basketball game coming up tonight against Clemson in Tuscaloosa. 5:45 will be our start time across the network. Then on Saturday, at time to determine an SEC champion, Alabama against Georgia. Noon will be our airtime. And one note, we will be joined by the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey, during our pregame coverage of Alabama against Georgia. 3 o'clock will be the kickoff. Full radio network, Varsity Network app. Make sure you watch the booth cam as well, presented by Regions Bank. And then we'll be busy readily heading home as soon as the football game is over. We got to get ready for basketball. Men's basketball will be taking on UTSA. Our coverage will start at noon across the network for that 1 o'clock tip-off. Women's basketball will follow against ULM at 3:45. So a great basketball doubleheader. Plenty of coverage headed your way here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and coverage of where Alabama will go in the college football playoff. We'll know those details coming up on Sunday as well once the bracket is released. Make sure you follow us at UA_CTSN for the very latest on all things Alabama athletics, and especially if you're watching on YouTube, perfect time right now to hit subscribe, turn on the notifications so you won't miss any of our live broadcasts coming up over the next few days, especially the one coming up Saturday in Atlanta. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Again, our 300th episode. Hard to believe we've had so many shows detailing Alabama athletics over the years. Got to say a huge thank you to the man that's produced all of those episodes, Ethan Carabin, who puts this entire show together along with all of our booth cam highlights like you saw earlier. He'll be manning our booth cam coming up as well. Women's basketball, football, men's and women's basketball all across this weekend. So shout out to Ethan Carabin, again, leading us through all 300 shows that we've had of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Thank you to our guests as well, DaShawn Jones, Holly Rowe, and Josh Brock of Georgia. And now as we say goodbye on this Thursday afternoon of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, we'll let the show end with thoughts from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer. He and Chris Stewart hung out last night at Baumhauer's Victory Grill for the SEC Championship Game preview show, brought to you by Alpha Insurance, and he gives us the final word of the night as we get ready for Saturday and the SEC Championship Game in Atlanta between Alabama and Georgia. Roll Tide, everyone.
What's your final word to the fan base?
SEC Championship, here we come, and guys are excited about the journey we've been on, and like I said, their job, according to them, the job's not done, and I love that. And we're giving everything we have to have a great Saturday. We know it's not going to be easy, but we're gonna give everything we have, just like we have all year.